Before you were old enough to understand what had happened, something happened. A choice was made that you did not make and could not have made. And the question that choice left behind, who am I and where do I truly belong, has followed you in one form or another ever since. This video is for you. Being adopted as a very young child is one of those experiences that shapes everything. Identity, relationships, the way you understand love, the way you understand yourself from the very beginning. And because it happened so early, before you had words for it, the shaping was quiet and went all the way down. It became part of the architecture of who you are before you were old enough to notice it being built. There is a particular complexity to growing up adopted that is difficult to describe to someone who has not lived it. It is not simply about gratitude or loss or belonging or searching. It is about all of these things at once, layered and sometimes contradictory. The love for the family who raised you and the questions about the family who did not. The life you have and the life that might have been. The person you are and the quiet wondering about who you might have been in a different beginning. And what comes next might give language to something you have been carrying since before you had words for it. Before most children are old enough to ask where babies come from, you had already been given the answer to a harder question, not as information, but as experience. Someone made a choice that meant you did not stay. That fact, however it was explained, however much love surrounded it, still lives in the body before it lives in the understanding. This does not mean you were unwanted by the people who raised you. It does not mean the original decision was made without love or without pain. But it does mean that you began your life with a question built into the foundation. Am I someone who can be left? And the way you have answered that question in your relationships, in your choices, in the way you hold people close or keep them at a certain distance is one of the most significant things about you. It deserves to be understood clearly rather than simply lived with quietly. There is a specific and unusual experience at the center of growing up adopted, the sense of living between two narratives. There is the story of your life as you have lived it, with the people who raised you, in the places you grew up, with the memories that belong entirely to you. And then there is another story, running parallel, that you were not part of. The story of where you came from, of the people whose faces may or may not look like yours, of the reasons and circumstances you may or may not fully know. Living between these two stories is not the same as being without a story. Your story is real, and it is entirely yours. But there is a particular complexity in carrying both, the life you have and the one that might have been. Most people grow up with one story about who they are and where they come from. You have always known, on some level, that the picture is larger than what you can see. And this next one is something that most adopted people discover about themselves, but rarely say out loud. Here is something genuinely true about many people who were adopted young. The love they have for the family who raised them, the love they received and the love they gave, was chosen love rather than assumed love. Not biological inevitability, but a daily and deliberate choosing. And that particular quality of love, love that knows, it did not have to be there. Love that is present by choice has a depth and a consciousness that love born of simple proximity sometimes lacks. You may also have developed an unusually clear understanding of what love actually requires. Presence, consistency, showing up, choosing someone again and again, regardless of what biology says, because that is what you experienced, that is what love looked like for you from the beginning. And it means you often love with a quality of intention and deliberateness that most people only arrive at after years of learning what love actually is. Most adopted people describe some version of the same experience, a searching that does not always have a specific object, but is always present somewhere underneath. A curiosity about faces, about origins, about what might have been different, can show up as a literal search for a biological family, for medical history, for the circumstances of your beginning, or it can be more diffuse, a general feeling of looking for something that might finally make you feel completely and unambiguously placed in the world. Some people search their whole lives, others make peace with not searching. Both are entirely understandable. This searching is not ingratitude. It is not a reflection on the family who raised you or the love they gave. It is simply what happens when a fundamental human question, where did I come from, does not have a simple or complete answer. The search is not about filling something empty. It is about completing a picture that was always whole but never entirely visible. And this last one might be the most important thing in this video, because it is about what you built. Here's the thing about people who were adopted young. The belonging they experience with the family they grew up in, with the friends they chose, with the communities they found, was not delivered to them by accident of birth. It was built, chosen, grown in the particular way that things grow when they are tended rather than simply inherited. This is not a lesser kind of belonging. It is, in many ways, a more conscious one. The family is family, not because of genetics, but because of thousands of ordinary mornings and dinners and days. The love is love, not because it could not be otherwise, but because it chose to continue. And the person you are, shaped by both stories, by the question and the answer, and the searching and the belonging, is someone who understands, at a level most people never reach, that home is something you build, rather than something you simply arrive into. The story of adoption is almost always a story with more sides than one. There is your story, there's the story of the family who raised you, and there's the story of the person or people who made the decision at the very beginning, a decision that was made in almost every case in circumstances of real difficulty, and that was almost never made without a cost of its own. Whatever the reasons were, and they were almost always complicated, the decision to place a child was rarely made easily or without something that looked, in its own way, like love. Understanding that does not change what it means for you, but it adds a human dimension to a story that can sometimes feel like it only has one side. And before we finish, the one thing I most want you to hold from everything in this video: you came into the world already part of a story larger than most people ever have to hold. You have carried questions that most people never have to ask. You have loved people across the particular distance that adoption creates, and been loved across it in return. And somewhere in you, in the searching, in the belonging, in the way you understand love as something chosen rather than assumed, there is a depth of human understanding that most people only glimpse at the edges of their lives. This week, try one small thing. If there is a question you have been carrying about your story, about where you came from, about what happened, about who you might find, take one step toward it. Write it down, say it to someone you trust. You deserve to know your own story as fully as it can be known. All of it. Not just the part that was chosen for you. If someone you know needed to hear this today, a friend, a sibling, someone you love who grew up the same way, share this with them. It might mean more than you know. Take care of yourself, and we will see you next time.